November is hashtag all things marriage for the Blazing the Trail community. We are determined to invest in our marriages so they can be healthy and enjoyable. If you've missed last week's episode on the Live, Love, Lead podcast, then I definitely want to encourage you to go back and listen. We unpacked creating a vision for your marriage. I got an email with a great follow-up question, and I want to answer it here on the podcast today. It reads, yesterday, I listened to your podcast on having a vision for your marriage. I was wondering if you have any tools or resources you could point me toward that might be helpful, particularly questions to ask in looking at where we are right now and to guide us in thinking through where we want to be, our vision. First of all, thank you so much for your question. I think a great place to start would be doing the marriage assessment that is from Focus on the Family. It's free and it evaluates the strength of 12 traits of your marriage. It shows you your marriage's strengths and weaknesses. You and your spouse complete it individually, and it takes about 10 minutes. You come back together and you discuss the results. It's a great assessment and a great conversation starter. I will put a link to the assessment in the show notes of this episode. I encourage each couple to take it. All right, guys, I am excited about this week's episode. We are unpacking the 3 C's of marriage: covenant, communication, and compromise. I'm April Nicole Scipio, and I'm a girl with a dream, a big dream. A dream to help you live, love, and lead. I am passionate about creating opportunities for you to become a better version of yourself, and I strongly believe that it happens best inside of authentic community. I'm very excited to have created a podcast that inspires you to dream big, challenges you to grow, and gives you tools to blaze the trail God has set before you. So get ready to build community, dig into God's Word, and take practical steps so you can live, love, and lead well. Welcome to the Live, Love, Lead podcast. I am your host, April Nicole Scipio, and I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is designed to help you live, love, and lead well. Today's episode is sponsored by my one-on-one online life coaching program. It's a 6-week experience to help you get your life together. For more information, head over to my website, www.aprilnicolescipio.com. I really think today's episode is going to be life-changing for marriages. Having a healthy marriage is a lot of work. And I believe that after today's episode, you will have a better understanding of the 3 C's of marriage: covenant, communication, and compromise. Let's start with covenant. A covenant is an agreement. It's a promise. It's something that you commit yourself to. It's a pledge. It's something that you take very seriously. Now, I think it's important for us to start here because we should understand the gravity of this partnership called marriage. In the Christian faith, marriage is a lifelong relationship between one man as husband and one woman as wife. Genesis 2:24 says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." This idea of committing to a lifelong relationship is key because marriage brings challenges. There are moments when things are going awesome, and there are moments when things are not so great. And sometimes things can get really bad. In those moments especially, you have to dig deep and be willing to do whatever it takes to work on, improve, and strengthen your marriage. In moments when things are going awesome, you still have to be willing to dig deep, be willing to do whatever it takes to work on, improve, and strengthen your marriage. When you keep this idea of covenant in your heart and mind, it compels you to stick with it. It reminds you that there is purpose in your marriage, which is why the enemy attacks marriages. This idea of covenant anchors you when the boat is rocky. Okay, what does this look like practically? To be honest, it boils down to making a decision. You have to decide to be in your marriage for the long haul. You cannot go off of how you feel because feelings change on a dime. You go off the fact that you have a covenant with your spouse and you are committed. The second C is communication. Communication is the exchanging of information. It's sending information, but it's also receiving information. In a marriage, having open, honest communication is so vital for the health of your marriage. As I've been thinking about communication, I'm actually convinced that the problem identified as a lack of communication is really more of a problem of lack of understanding. When we're in a conversation with someone, it's easy to think and proceed as if they processed the information the same way we did. But the information received is filtered through each person's unique lens. That lens is affected by past experiences, present circumstances, future hopes, what happened 10 minutes prior, what's going to happen 10 minutes later, if they're hungry, if they're upset, if they're curious. There's so many variables when it comes to how people process information. And for each person, it's different. So when someone says it was a lack of communication, our instinct is to think that they need more information, which could be true, but it could be that they don't need more information. They just need to ask the right questions. Asking questions helps you understand better. I'll give you an example in my own life. There was a time recently when my husband and I communicated about him picking the kids up from school. Well, the time came for them to be picked up and he wasn't there. Thankfully, a friend of mine was available and she totally helped us out that day and it was all good. But the issue wasn't a lack of communication because we exchanged information. But the problem was a lack of understanding. Now, fast forward a week later, my husband and I talked about him going to a program at school that I couldn't attend. The day of the program, my husband texted me a question. Am I supposed to be at the school by 1? I replied, yes. Just that simple question clarified things, made sure we were on the same page, and things worked out a lot smoother. The Bible talks a lot about communication. There are 2 verses I want to read. First one is Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. Proverbs 18:2 says, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. I love that one. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding. Y'all, we have got to make sure we understand when our spouse is communicating to us. So practically, how do you communicate better in your marriage? My suggestion comes from James chapter 1, verse 19. It says, understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. In a nutshell, listen more than you speak. And when you couple that with asking good questions, you are on the right track for positive communication in your marriage. The last C is compromise. A compromise is an agreement that is reached by both sides making concessions. To compromise is to accept standards that are lower than what you desire. In marriage, there are many times that you have to compromise because you are two different people with different ideas and different passions. So the need to compromise is inevitable. But today, I want to challenge your thinking. When you and your spouse compromise, don't think of it as you are giving up something or that something is being taken from you. Have the mindset that you get to serve your spouse. You get to honor them and put their needs and desires before your own. Galatians 5:13 says, "For you were called to freedom, brothers, only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another." Ephesians 5:21 says, "And further, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ." Mark 10:45 says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Christ is our perfect example. He gave up his life to have a relationship with us. Let that sink in for a minute. Let us remember when we serve our spouses, it's an honor. What does this look like practically? Simply put your spouse before yourself. Honor them and serve them. Let's recap the 3 C's. The first one is covenant. Make a decision that you are committed to a lifelong relationship with your spouse. The second one is communication. Listen first, speak second, and ask questions. And last, compromise. Honor and serve your spouse. Put them before yourself. I hope you've heard something today that will strengthen your marriage. But more than that, I pray you apply and act on what you heard. Thank you so much for listening in today. It would mean so much if you would share this episode on your socials. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, go live, love, and lead well. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Shout out to the production team because teamwork makes the dream work. Now, it would mean so much if you would rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to make it easier for other people to find. Then head over to the website aprilnicolescipio.com where you can find more resources to help you live, love, and lead well.